Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. I am Sean. Today I am doing the Would You Rather tag. I saw this tag on Maria Andrea's channel, which I'll post in the description. I thought it was a very fun looking tag. All the questions look pretty intriguing, so let's get into it. Would you rather never read more than one book from the same author, can't reread either, or read only books from your favorite author or one author of your choice? I think I would rather read other books by other authors but not be able to read any other books by them. The reason is because I think for a lot of my favorite authors, I may really like a couple books they've written, but then all their other books may be kind of just so-so. So I would much rather just read one book from every author. I would be too worried if I just choose one author to read. I would get tired of their books. So even for my favorite authors, I would pick just one book of theirs that I could have read and all the others were eliminated. Read a book with an unlikable main character or your favorite character dies. I would definitely read a book where my favorite character dies, because if I just do not like the main character, I'm probably not going to like the book. So even though I may not like if my favorite character dies, I'm at least invested in it. I like the book. I'm into the book. But if I don't like the main character, I won't be into the book. So I would definitely prefer reading a book where my favorite character dies. On that note, I am currently reading Lonesome Dove by Larry McMurtry, and just last night, my favorite character in the book died. Start your library from scratch, but you can't rebuy any of the books that were on your shelf before, or never be allowed to add a new book to it. I would definitely just stick with what I have because so much of what I have are signed books, and so many of them I already largely have stuff I want, Ray Bradbury, Clive Cussler, Tom Clancy, just on and on the list would go. So there's really not very much that I would want to add to my shelf that I do not already have. I mean, there'd be a signed Harry Potter J.K. Rowling book, a signed J.R.R. Tolkien. Those would be the pinnacle, but I'm just not going to really even believe that's ever going to happen. So I would just keep my shelf as it is and never buy another book, because I do not want to get rid of most of these books that I have. And also, I'm already kind of at that point where I have so many books on my shelf and I don't have more bookshelf space, where I really have to be selective about what I add. So I'm already kind of near a point where I'm really reluctant to buy books. Your favorite author never publishes anything new or only publishes bad books from now on. I would actually say I would prefer they only publish bad books from now on, because for me, the main example that comes to mind is Gail Honeyman, the author of Eleanor Oliphant is Completely Fine. That was one of my favorite books, but the author has just not written anything new, and it bothers the crap out of me because I'm always wanting to read another book by her. That upsets me. But then there's other books, one of my favorite authors is Tim O'Brien, where, there's several books by him that I don't really like very much. But I at least like that I could try other Tim O'Brien books. They exist. With Gail Honeyman, it doesn't exist. So I would much prefer that my favorite authors publish bad books, because at least then I could read them, I could try them, and I could think, this one wasn't as good. That is not as bad a feeling as not having the book at all and just wondering if it'll ever come. That feels more a part of you is missing. And yeah, maybe I'll fall a little bit out of love with my favorite author, because it's that book's not as good, that book's not as good. But still, I think that's not as bad as just wanting another book to come out and never getting it. Read only one of your favorite genres, or read as widely as you want except in that genre. Ooh, that's real tricky. My Favorite genre, I guess, would be like literary classics. That's a lot of what I read. Would I rather only read those or be able to read anything else? Oh, that's so tricky because I'm kind of getting to a point already where I'm kind of close-ish to reading a lot of the like literary classics that I want to read. But I'm not sure I really like too much other genres. I mean, like, I really would like kind of like the action thriller genre, you know, like Clive Cussler, Tom Clancy, sort of like Michael Crichton kind of stuff. And I would be intrigued about like trying other genres, like, you know, Western genres, getting more into fantasy books and whatever. I think I would say I would rather read my favorite genre. So I would probably continue reading literary classics, but then once I'm done, I'm done. Because I'm already kind of feeling a little bit at that point where I'm getting a little less fulfillment out of reading nowadays. Because I kind of feel like I've learned a lot of what I want to learn from reading, like examining how other writers write. So I feel like I could more easily like just move on from reading and do other things instead in life. So even if I get bored of my favorite genre or whatever, even if I get bored of reading literary classics, I think I would be okay, you know? So I would rather read books only from my favorite genre and nothing else. Be stranded forever on a deserted island with a full library, or still live in society but books have disappeared. I am really an introvert, so I mean, a lot of my life is just by myself anyway. I'm kind of already on a deserted island, but I still think society is more intriguing. I'd rather live in a society than just, you know, on an island by myself for the rest of my life. Even though I kind of have problems around people and I don't like a lot of people, I still am interested by them. They make life interesting, you know? You meet a lot of characters. Even if you don't really like them, it's just like, that's an interesting person. For instance, at the bookstore this last week, there was a woman who like kept like clicking her nail into her teeth and just while she was talking to me just, and I was just like, this person is weird. But I would rather like have that experience than like never interact with anybody ever again, but I have all the books I ever want, you know? So I would definitely prefer to live in a society without books than to just have all the books I want. Science fiction fantasy. Read only 5-star series, but they're unfinished, or read only thick standalones with a bunch of info dumping. Two things concern me about that last one. So the one is like huge standalones. Large books are difficult to read. I mean, the writing has to be real special. The plot has to be real good. The characters have to be real good. There has to be a lot going right to keep me invested in a really large book. Then that gets us into that phrase info dumping. To me, that just is like poor writing where the author is just like, okay, here's all these details that you need to know about the background of the book. You know, I think that info should be sprinkled throughout the story so it's a lot more manageable rather than just throwing it at readers. So I really just am really reluctant about large books with a lot of info dumping. That doesn't sound very good to me. So I would rather read 5-star books in series that are just not continued. Basically, the way I'll explain it is I'll kind of use 2 books as examples here. I mentioned earlier, Eleanor Oliphant is Completely Fine by Gail Honeyman. 5-star book, absolutely loved it. And it's not a very long book either. Beautiful book, just great, loved it. One of my favorite books of all time. Top of my like loved shelf, you know, my favorite books ever. That's great. But then another book, Atlas Shrugged by Ayn Rand. Huge book with a lot in it that I might potentially like, but also a lot of scenes where it's kind of like the info dumping, where it's like, do I really need to know all this here? You know, that is a book where I was close to liking it, but there was so much in it. It was just so long, and there were scenes that were like, this scene should have been cut. I didn't really like that book as much because of it, so I could do without that book. I would not want to do without Eleanor Oliphant is Completely Fine, though. So I would prefer reading 5-star books, but there's no sequel. You're always waiting, wondering how the series ends, and you just never get it. I would prefer that over just like big slogs of books where it's a standalone book. Because for those, I will probably only read like 100 pages, then get bored. Mystery. Always get book twists spoiled, or they all have an open ending / the killer isn't caught. I think I would much prefer the latter. I'd prefer kind of an ending where it's like, rather than knowing what's going to happen, because that just makes it difficult to enjoy it more, because you don't get that same experience as if you would have been surprised by it. But for this one, I will say it definitely depends on how it is pulled off, because I've definitely read like twists at the end of books where it surprised me, but I didn't like it. And if I would have known about that twist at the end, it wouldn't have bothered me. I mentioned already, Eleanor Oliphant is Completely Fine. There's a twist at the end. I didn't like it at all. But I wouldn't have not liked the book just if I would have known that twist. Even though I didn't like that twist, the book would have still been fine for me. It was a great book. I've definitely read a couple books where they kind of had those open endings where I'm like, what just happened? Or maybe like it says, the killer is never caught or whatever. I've read maybe a couple books like that, but they're not coming to my mind at this moment. They're kind of disappointing. So I forget what I said earlier. So I think my answer is I would rather actually know the spoiler, because I think I could still enjoy the book. It just largely depends how it is pulled off. So, I mean, either one could work and either one could be bad. It just depends on the execution. But between the two, I think I would kind of prefer knowing what happens, because that's also been the case like with movies I've seen that have, book adaptations, like for instance, Game of Thrones. I know who dies and stuff, but I'm still invested in the story. So I think I can tolerate more if I know the spoiler than to have a poor ending. But again, it really depends on execution. So this one really could go either way. Historical romance. Great love story, but historical inaccuracy, or toxic or meh love story, but great historical world building. For this one, I think I would prefer historical inaccuracies, because those don't really bother me as much, because even though I like history, I understand this is a work of fiction, So if you have to like bend the truth or twist the truth or just have something like completely out of left field, that is fine. You're telling a story. If you can do that as part of telling a great story, that is fine. So I would definitely prefer that over just like rigid historical accuracy. And on top of that, even if it's like, very accurate historical world building, if it's a meh story, it's not going to be as good. If I just want really accurate history, I should just read a history book. Read a book that has the best characters or the best plot or the best writing, but none of the others. For this one, I actually definitely prefer the best characters, because I think characters are what really sells a book. It really invests you in the story. The main thing that comes to mind is Gone with the Wind by Margaret Mitchell. There is a chapter in that book where all that happens is like the main love interest guy gives Scarlett a scarf or something, and I know in the story in the chapter why that is meaningful for her because of her character. character. I understand why she would appreciate that cloth or whatever. So because of that, that was actually my favorite chapter in the book. And all that happens is he gives her a scarf. That is like so plain, like just to think like your favorite chapters of all time, you know, you may think of like an epic battle or something, or a great love scene, a great romance scene or something. But my favorite chapter in that book is the guy gives a scarf to the girl. That just seemed so plain, but I loved it because I liked the characters. I understood what that scarf meant for her. So I think if you like the characters, you'll be invested in really whatever happens. Like the character can just be doing the laundry, and if you're invested in the character, you're going to be invested in what's happening. So like if the laundry machine breaks down, you're going to be like, oh no, you know, my character, you know, I love this character and this is going to upset her. This upsets me. And it's just like, oh, so what? The laundry machine is broken. But if you like the character, you'll care. Whereas if you have like the greatest plot in the world or the greatest writing in the world, if you don't care about the people involved, if you don't care about what's happening, you know, if you have this big epic battle, but if you don't care who's fighting it or who wins, you're not going to care so much about the battle or whatever. So I think the most important thing is good characters. That is where everything should really begin. You have to have good characters to have readers immersed in your story, to care about your story. If they don't care about your characters, why are they going to care about the plot or the writing? Have a friend who loses your books or mistreat them. Stains, break the spine, etc. Oh, both are really bad. I would really hope the friend just like buys me a replacement copy for the book. That is what they should do. Like, you know, hey, I'm sorry I got the book a little bit wet or whatever, a page tore. So here, I bought you another copy of the book. Great, that is fine. I've actually done that like with my ex. She let me borrow one of her books and I got like ketchup on one of the pages. So I bought her another copy of the book. That is what friends should do. If the friend like borrows the book and they just never return it or they damage it, to me that is like equal sins, you know? So I think the friend should replace the book. Like, come on, you damaged the book, you lost my book, buy me another one. And the book better not be special. Like, it better not be like a signed edition book or like a rare special collector's edition book or whatever. I'm just talking like just a generic book off your shelf. You know, maybe it's a keeper you wanted, so you're expecting it to get returned. If they damage it or lose it, either one is an equal sin to me. They should replace it. Between the two, I would say that losing the book is a slightly lesser sin because, I mean, that at least could happen. I mean, you know, just the book gets lost somewhere. Maybe you had it in town and you're reading it and you just forgot it. Maybe you're at the coffee shop and you just forgot it on the table, and when you went back it was gone, you know? To me that's just like, okay, well, you goofed. Whereas if you like actually damage the book or whatever, like I did getting ketchup on it, that is more like, you moron, how could you do that? You damaged my book. That is more like an act of like, I don't know how to say it, like criminal negligence. Like, that is something you really messed up there. That is like you left your kid in town and just forgot about them. That is like a criminal error. Whereas like, oh, you just forgot that it was like your child had a play at school that day and it just completely slipped your mind. That is like not an arrestable offense. So for me, the arrestable offense would be like damaging the book, spilling coffee on it, tearing a page, getting ketchup on the book. Those are things that are like, how dare you? Whereas if you just lose the book, it's kind of like, you know, we all have our moments. Either way, buy a replacement copy of the book for the person. If they don't, that may not be a friend worth keeping. I'm sorry, but you just got to be a good friend. You got to just man up and just take responsibility and say, hey, I'm sorry, I lost the book, I damaged the book, whatever. So I got another copy ordered for you. It's on the way. I'll give it to you when it shows up. I'm sorry. Fine. Understood. Apology accepted. We're good. Never be allowed to visit a bookstore again or be banned from all the libraries in the world. Since I work at a bookstore and I have a passion about going into different bookstores, I would definitely say I would rather be banned from all the libraries in the world. I don't really go to libraries all that much. I don't use libraries all that much. I mean, I don't know, maybe a couple times a year I may check out books from the library. That is not as important to me as being able to go into bookstores. To me, bookstores are definitely supreme. That is one of my main enjoyments in life, is just to go around to different bookstores. If I could just my whole life just go around from town to town, bookstore to bookstore, that would be the life. I would love that. If I could never go into a library again, I'm okay with that. Would you rather everyone hate your favorite books or everyone love the books you hate? I feel like this is already the case. A lot of people love the books I hate, like Colleen Hoover and James Patterson and I don't know who else. So there are so many, authors and stuff. People love them. I just can't get into them. Whereas, my favorite book of all time is The City of Dreaming Books by Walter Moores. Not a lot of people talk about that book. Definitely not a people love that book. But that doesn't really bother me as much. I mean, it's not like that triggers me, Whereas people loving books that I hate, that is more of an issue, where Sarah J. Maas or whatever her name is, I just hate how you see whole shelves full of her books and all these other book titles imitate her book titles and her covers. They are all trying to look like hers. That bothers me more. But is that my answer? I think between the two, I would rather people hate my favorite books, because ultimately that doesn't bother me. If you don't like The City of Dreaming Books or Harry Potter or The Things They Carried by Tim O'Brien or The Hunt for Red October by Tom Clancy, Frankenstein by Mary Shelley, even though a lot of people like that book, Eleanor Oliphant is completely fine. If people don't like my favorite books, I really don't care. I mean, so what? That doesn't hurt me. I still was fully able to enjoy these books. I do not need other people to like my same books for me to like them. I mean, it's just a non-issue. I just do not care. So I think I would rather people not like my favorite books. I don't care. Doesn't bother me whatsoever. Whereas people loving books I hate, like Colleen Hoover, Sarah J. Maas, whatever, that bothers me. So yeah, I prefer people hate my favorite books. That's their loss. That's not my problem. That's their loss. Only listen to audiobooks narrated by the worst narrator / Mickey Mouse, or only read physical books in terrible lighting. I don't listen to audiobooks, so my answer would naturally be reading books in poor lighting. Books from a same series / collection who don't match, or read books printed in tiny font. If a book is written in real small font, that will make it real difficult for me to want to read it. Whereas I do not really care if books do not match or whatever. I do not buy books or read books just because oh, this looks exactly like the same edition as this other book I have by this author. I don't care. I just want to read the book. So my answer would definitely be I would rather read mismatching books. Doesn't bother me. Small font would bother me. Never post another YouTube video, or never watch YouTube ever again. This is unfortunately an easier answer than I wish it would be. I would never post another YouTube video. Because I mean, that is kind of a lot of work. It's a lot of work kind of to come up with the videos, to get up the energy, to pick a topic I want to do a video on, to set up the camera, to edit the video, that could take a few hours. And then, you know, maybe the video doesn't even get too much success, you know. Maybe it only gets like 1 like. Maybe the views aren't too good. So, you know, I'm kind of already at that point where I feel like I could kind of quit doing booktube if I wanted to. You know, there's other things in my life I could do, whereas there's so many different channels on YouTube where it's like my daily viewing. I always want to check them out, you know. They're more a part of my life. I feel more dependent kind of on those things. I want to see those things. I want to see those videos. I appreciate, I think, those videos more than having my own channel. I could do other things. I could have other interests, but it would be a lot harder to replace watching all my favorite videos on YouTube. That would be what I'd prefer. I'd prefer watching YouTube rather than making videos for it. I would really be okay if I never published another video on YouTube. I could do other things, but never having YouTube again to watch videos, that would kill me. Anyway, that is it for this video, so stay tuned. I do plan to do other videos on YouTube. I'm not done yet. Anyway, thank you guys for watching. Go check out Maria Andrea's video. I'll take it in the description. Thank you guys for watching. Hope to see you in another video. Bye.
2, 3, 4.